Hello and welcome to the 52nd edition of the DrivingMaul show. Hi, I'm Paul and I'll be your host this evening. And yes, I'm back after a week off. I missed last week because it was my birthday, but I'm here. Unfortunately, I was going to say, unfortunately, it looks like everyone else has gone AWOL and I'll be on my own. But no, just in the nick of time, with perhaps 2 seconds late. But hey, because I do an intro, he was on time. How you doing, Stephen?
Very good, thank you, Paul. It seems like I've been away forever, obviously away for the weekend. So, yeah, once again, always a privilege and a pleasure to be on the show, although even Auckland traffic couldn't hold me back this evening, Paul.
Yes, I had a quick look through the news and I couldn't find anything that was going on mentioned there about the Auckland traffic. So I hope everyone's safe and well, because apparently, as you say, you've been having gridlock and stuff. But no, I couldn't find anything on there. But
I was about to say, Paul, unfortunately, yeah, there has been a fatality, but it's sad news, not what a family wants to hear, just another day at work and you lose somebody. So, not great at all. And apparently a couple of people have been taken to hospital. This all just happened only a couple of minutes away from where I live on Great North Road. So, hey, thoughts go out to all those people involved. Listen, at the end of the day, I was just stuck in traffic. I got home safe, and no doubt a whole lot of other people did as well, Paul. So, it kind of makes you think what's real, and whilst we enjoy our footy and sport, it does make you think.
Absolutely, there's much more important things than that. We'll be, but that's what this show is about. We'll be talking about rugby. And how was your rugby weekend, Stephen? What did you get up to? You get to see much Super Rugby, or actually, no. I know you got out and about around the grounds, didn't you?
Yeah, I can't. I didn't see a great amount of Super Rugby. I did a bit of a road trip up to Opanoni, which is about 3.5 hours from Auckland, and caught up with some family. But I took the opportunity to head over and watch a little bit of Taiya Power Northland Club Rugby, and the game I attended was in Kirikiri, or between Kirikiri and Western Sharks, and good turnout, good crowd. Kirikiri, that's the club of current Blues halfback Sam Knock. So great facility up there, and it's a real community feel. Paul, you'll obviously know that buzz being down in the Waihi area.
Yeah, for me, I was at Waihi for Waihi versus Thames. We had a double header, B and A teams both playing Thames. So I videoed both of those for the club, and then I got myself over to Hamilton for the Chiefs game there as well. So Stephen did some great videos and interviews from the post match of the there's on our Facebook page. So go check those out on New Zealand Sports Radio, and you can see the post-match interviews from the Chiefs game that I put up there as well. So that's all there on New Zealand Sports Radio. If you'd like to support us to help us bring you that kind of content, because you know what, coming up is the Bunnings NPC and Bunnings Farah Palmer Cup. We'll be getting around those games and bringing you coverage from those as well. You can become a supporter of New Zealand Sports Radio over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio, and you can help us to be able to get around those ones, but also, just importantly, to have the right tech so we can actually do the interviews. Because without that, without your support, in all honesty, we can't afford the sort of microphones and computers and cameras and stuff that we use. So thank you very much to all of the supporters of New Zealand Sports Radio. So Stephen, both of us out there amongst the community, and which was great to see. Straight away into Super Rugby then, and you know what, COVID is impacting us yet again. Yes, we have a travel ban between Melbourne or Queensland, not Queensland, wrong place, Victoria, sorry, and New Zealand for 72 hours. And as Simon Hughes has put in the live chat there, I hear Melbourne Rebels might not be able to play this week. And yes, well, we're on today is today's Tuesday. 72 hours is 3 days. So Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or is it coming in tonight? I'm not sure. Either way, it's going to be touch and go for the Rebels game this weekend. I'm just trying to bring that up to remind myself who they are playing. They are playing the Highlanders. It's on Sunday, so maybe the borders will be open, but it's looking a bit tight, isn't it, Stephen?
Yeah, to be honest, it's a big ask. They would have probably only got off the plane. Probably, I would think yesterday. They would have got back to Melbourne and just get that news. Actually, not yesterday. Sunday was a couple of days ago. I'm losing the plot here. So yeah, to get this sort of news 2 days later would be very, very frustrating for them. So a real big ask to once again sort of get to the venue very, very late. It's asking a lot.
It is. Look, they flew back from a Friday night game in Wellington, so I'm guessing they flew back probably Saturday morning, as you say, got home Saturday. A couple of days later, this. And I expect they would have been, for the Sunday game, would have probably been flying out on Friday. And I guess with Sunday captain's run and then, Saturday captain's run, Sunday the game. So maybe they'll be able to keep that same schedule. We'll have to wait and see. I know the Chiefs were flying out on Wednesday, or tomorrow, sorry, to make it for their game against the Reds on Saturday. So, Thursday or Friday, I thought the Rebels would be flying, and we'll have to see what comes out of that one. But we'll keep an eye on that one for you, folks. There. Simon then also mentions. I'll be honest, I didn't keep you didn't see much Super Rugby, Stephen. I'm guessing you didn't watch much European rugby either, because I didn't either. So Simon, Toulouse La Rochelle might have been the best match of the weekend, but I'll tell you, neither of us saw it. So, but congratulations to Toulouse on winning the European Champions Cup.
Interestingly enough, there was a red card in that particular game as well. So it kind of makes you wonder if it had an influence. I did see some scores where La Rochelle were up by a decent score at some stage, but got run down in the end. So it'd be interesting to know when that card was handed out for.
Oh, it was a very early card. So I think they had like 50 odd minutes or so, with down to 14 men. One of the pictures I do like is a picture of Untitled with his dad on his shoulders whilst he holds the cup, and then a picture of him on his dad's shoulders when his dad won the cup as a player many years ago. So a then and now photo from them. So apparently the first father and son combination of players to have won the Heineken Champions Cup there. So great to see. Congratulations to them on that unique achievement over there in France. So talking about Super Rugby then, yeah, I have heard some comments that Ohio West's kicking wasn't so good, and they had some problems there. But anyway, I think he missed 3 or so from that one. Moving on then, and to Super Rugby 2022. Now, there seems to be all sorts of stuff going on over in Australia at the moment as to what format they want to have or don't want to have, and discussions. There's some talk that they want to have the same format as this year, so Super Rugby AU followed by Super Rugby Trans-Tasman. There's other suggestions, obviously, of us having the 12-team round-robin competition with the Fiji Drua and Moana Pacifica coming in. Stephen, can you? What are your thoughts on this one? Do you think that Australia needs Super Rugby AU to keep interest, or do you think that they should be testing themselves against more teams?
You know what? I actually think after watching both competitions, I think they need to be a part of it because their game really needs to be improved. I just sort of wonder if we have this little burst with Trans-Tasman rugby, we kind of go away, then they go back to their competition again next year when the level just drops a little bit. I just think having the one competition would be the better way to go, Paul. I just think, I know people will say, well, the crowds are dropped off, but on saying that, we've seen some pretty useful crowds turn up to the Australian leagues of the game, and just for me, this round was probably disappointing in terms of, at least the first round, we had a couple of games that could have gone either way at the end of the day, but looking back on these games, they were pretty much one-sided across the board, with that Reds Crusaders game being the biggest surprise, because you saw a Crusaders side that was out there at their very best, as opposed to the week before. They basically treated it like the battle of the champion teams, and they put on a performance accordingly. And unfortunately, the Reds couldn't live with them.
No, absolutely, you're right. The Crusaders saw that as being kind of like the mini final, and going, this is where they probably, the Crusaders, a bit like the All Blacks, when there's a statement game, they really raise their game for it.
Yep.
Their play, the Crusaders clearly saw this one as a statement game, and went after it big time.
Paul, I was about to say, the crazy thing about it, and I just managed to catch some of the highlights yesterday, and they were only the highlights. And there was an interesting comment from one of the commentators, and he actually said that, listen, the Reds, apart from dropping a pass, you couldn't say they were really, really bad. They just came up against a team that was clearly that much better than what they were. The Reds on another day, if they'd played with that sort of intent, would probably beat a few other sides. But listen, I think there's probably a couple of Kiwi sides they can rattle the cages with, especially at home. The Blues, I think, play the Reds over in Brisbane, and they will have to find a much better level than what they showed on the weekend. And once again, I'm just going off highlights, Paul, but you could hardly say at times the Blues were convincing against the Waratahs.
Yeah, look, we had a couple of games where teams didn't play. The Hurricanes again also, I don't think, had a particularly good game against the Rebels either. So, look, I think to me, what has come out of this one is that come out of this competition is that the organisers of the competition really have not put have not put the greater good together on this one. They haven't thought through and said, okay, for this competition to be successful, what do we need? What do you need? You need an Australian win in the first round or the first couple of rounds. And so hence they should have lined up some fixtures that were likely or possible or more likely than not to be Australian wins early on, rather than asking the Brumbies to go on a three game tour against the three top teams from the New Zealand competition was not on. Asking the Reds to turn around at short notice, or not short notice, sorry, to turn around on a shortened week with a Friday night game and travel was not a good idea.
Paul,
I think it's just been bad scheduling.
Yeah, Paul. The other thing that's playing out in my mind, we all know Australia hasn't got a lot of depth, but if you look up to Japan, they've got some real quality players. I'm talking Australian players running around in that Japanese competition. And there's some really good ones. Sean McMahon is a player that comes to mind. Jack Debrasini is running up, but sprinkled throughout a lot of those teams. Hendrik Tui is running around up there. Boy, you wonder, with some of those players running around, or maybe even a marquee player that's running around over there, how much better they'll be. Because, you look at say, for example, if you look at the Western Force, even with a couple of veteran New Zealanders who really are towards the end of their career, look how much value those two players add. I'm talking about Jeremy Thrush and Richard Kahui, how much value and experience they add to that Western Force side. Can you imagine sort of the Waratahs having about even 2 or 3 marquee players that can basically stimulate this team or basically have the experience when the chips are down to stay in the fight, Paul.
Yeah, no, you're right. Look, one of the problems with particularly with the Waratahs is the number of internationals that they've shipped and lost. Aaron is saying that you're saying the draw should have been rigged, a la bookies stuff. Look, at the end of the day, the 5 teams are playing 5 teams, right? So you're not rigging the draw too much. It's not like you're saying, we'll avoid certain teams. You're still going to play all 5 New Zealand teams. It's just which order and whether you play them at home or away. So putting the Brumbies up against travelling to the Crusaders, the Chiefs and the Blues, was a tough ask. And listening to the post-match interview, you can go and listen to Dan McKellar's one, but he's talking about, we've got to test ourselves and see our level. And you're kind of like, okay, with those sort of comments, basically you were not expecting to come up and win very many games on this bit, to be honest. And that's and that follows through. So look, I think I don't think you could have, especially the Crusaders. I don't think the Crusaders could have asked for a better draw than they've got. I think the draw has been preferential to the New Zealand side, essentially. Whereas I think it should have been perhaps, as they are the stronger sides on the whole, then perhaps they should take the. We should try to evening things up a little bit more. Anyway,
Paul, I was going to say, if you want to talk about a team that, and when you talk about draws, boy, talk about a tough draw. You look at the Brumbies. They've had to play the Crusaders away, the Chiefs away, and this weekend they've got the Blues away. I'll tell you what, Aaron, don't jump off the screen, but I wouldn't put it past them putting one over the Blues. It just have a funny feeling there. Yeah, exactly. See, he was reading my mind. You must have a camera in my room here. I actually think that they're a team that could basically turn an upset. The problem that they've got, can they lift themselves 3 weeks in a row? I mean to say, I've not seen any of the Chiefs Brumbies game, but was that a case of the Chiefs being just on another planet and the Brumbies just below form compared to the week before, Paul?
Oh no, I wouldn't call it on another planet. I would say that they controlled the game really well. They played where they wanted to play. They kept hold of the ball for big periods, in that, especially particularly in the first half, and got the lead, and made sure that the Brumbies basically didn't get to play in their half. So it was a well-controlled game rather than necessarily. I'm not saying they were. And Dan McKellar said, obviously, look, they were better than us on the night. We didn't turn up physically, but I don't think there's a million miles between the two teams. And I think he's right there. The teams are probably much closer than 14-19 scoreline suggests normally. But they didn't have the physicality and intensity. So I think they'll know that and get up for the Blues game much better, hopefully, this coming weekend. But I do think they need to, as you say, test themselves like this. The other option is to have a Super Rugby AU, Super Rugby NZ, with the Fiji Drua joining Super Rugby AU and Moana Pacifica joining Super Rugby Aotearoa, and then having the crossover afterwards. But that way you get an Australian champion, a New Zealand champion, and then this crossover piece. I don't like this crossover piece where you don't carry the games through. So perhaps we'll carry those games through, but still, that's a possibility. But I can't see them. I think we are going to have a 12 team Trans-Tasman competition next year. I was going to have a quick chat about some of the mid-year games. Actually, first off, Stephen and Ashwin, I don't know if Archie was watching, but thank you for your kind words last week. That was at the beginning of the show. I had to listen to the show. The two of you did a very good job having a chat about Kieran Reid's career. But there's one comment from one thing I'd just like to add to what you said about that. I sat next to Alex Corbisiero during the Lions tour over here, and during that we got into a closed. I got invited into a closed All Blacks training session, and we chatted with Alex Corbisiero, who happened to be sat there as well. He was doing media stuff. Most of the media weren't allowed in there. It wasn't open to the media. I just happened to get an invite through Scott Hornell. So thank you for that, mate. And one of the things he said was that the biggest hit he ever took in his career was being tackled by Kieran Reid. There are a lot of things you think about Kieran Reid for, but being a big hitter or being the hardest hit a British and Irish Lions prop has received in his entire career isn't necessarily where you'd put. You think it'd be more on the skill side than necessarily the power side. Good. Just to add that to say your wonderful review of his career last week on the show.
Yeah, Paul, I was going to say, Rocky Elson would have very similar thoughts as well. E.g. getting pretty much sideswiped in the 2011 semi-final. Yeah, very. I've actually heard that comment through a few people. Very, very physical. Yeah, you're talking a guy that's 6'3", 6'4", and very, very wiry as well, Paul. But
yeah,
hey, great stories, and I'm pretty sure there'll be many more.
So let's touch on the media test to start off with. You guys talked about the New Zealand ones, the fact that the All Blacks take on Tonga at Mount Smart Stadium, and then they'll be playing the Fiji in Forsyth Bar down in Dunedin, and then at FMG Stadium in Waikato. Now, a couple of things here. The New Zealand versus Fiji in Waikato is the same weekend as the Waikato Club Rugby Finals. Oops. So interesting scheduling there for that one. So that's coming up. And Ashwin, hey, good that they're taking it out to the regions. I don't know. Forsyth Bar is going to have 2 games this year, and I'm thinking, what a wonderful game they had down in Nelson. So could they have taken another one? Pardon me, down there. Or when is the last time the All Blacks played in Napier?
That's a good question. I think they actually played against Fiji, and I think it might have been in the about 95 or 1996. I can recall an All Black player making a debut, but boy, that'd primarily be a little bit of a guess, Paul.
So it's for me, not in living memory as far as I'm concerned. Your living memory takes us back about 25 years since the last time I played there. I'd have thought this would be a fantastic opportunity to take one of those games to Napier to have a game. And you might say Whangarei, but look, Whangarei had the British and Irish Lions a couple of years ago play up there. Rotorua's had Maori All Blacks games and British and Irish Lions games there. New Plymouth at the moment hasn't got a stadium that can host them. Same with Southland, really. That stadium's about to go through renovation as well. To me, Hawke's Bay or Palmerston North with Napier or Palmerston North with Hawke's Bay or Manawatu, 2 provinces that haven't had much love recently, or within that maybe could have had one of these smaller test matches hosted at one of their places. Admittedly, Manawatu Stadium isn't a great one, and I'm not sure it's up to scratch for a test match. But from what I've seen, the Hawks, and I've not been down there. You've been down there fairly recently, but the same down in Napier is a bit more is a proper stadium. Is it proper? It stands on both sides.
Yeah, it's not too bad. It's actually got stands at sort of like, I think it's the Keltra main stand, which is towards the more the town end, are heading away from the basically the sea end. The sea end is pretty much an open terrace, if I recall, and 2 stands on the other side. I think comfortably all up, it holds about probably 25,000.
Yeah, that's a decent size for one of those test matches. I would have gone for that one. Aaron's mentioning there that local Fijian population in Auckland and Waikato is bigger, true, but not much for Fijian one down in say Dunedin. And Dunedin's getting 2 tests this year. I can't remember the last time it's had 2 test matches outside of Rugby World Cup, to be honest. So I thought that would be a good one. The Samoa versus Tonga World Cup qualifying match is going to be held in Hamilton, yes, and that will be the curtain raiser for the All Blacks versus Fiji game. So, as I say, you've got 2 international test matches in Hamilton on the same day as the club finals.
Yeah, seriously, I'm still trying to get my head around. Why don't we just play it the night before or the day after?
So there will, I think there will be some discussions with the clubs as to how they can change that. So yes,
I was going to say, we at Sport Radio will be talking to the pool.
So yes, there is it is that double header there. The last so the last rugby match the All Blacks played in Napier was 2014 against Argentina. Still 6 years ago.
Very good.
So thank you, Simon, for that. But still 6 years ago. So I still think that they could be they could be due another one on my mind. So the other point I'd like to take from all of this is that the home unions, so England, Ireland, and Wales in particular, are all not touring and actually are hosting their games at home. Scotland is the exception. They're going to travel to Romania and to Georgia and have games there. But say England, Ireland, and Wales are playing at home, not going to the USA, Japan, Argentina, where which are the teams that they're going to be playing against. Obviously, missing all their British and Irish Lions contingent of players to heading off down to South Africa. So they are weakened sides. Now, the way that international test matches work, I think, for which we're all kind of aware, is that the home side gets to keep all the cash, and the visiting side just gets their travelling expenses, essentially. This would be a fantastic opportunity for Argentina to make some cash. Or the USA, Canada, Japan. Are they? These are extra test matches for the home unions. I hope, and it is hope rather than expectation, that they will share the profits from these games with those unions. But I'm not going to hold my breath on this one. Rugby values and all that doesn't seem to go as far as money. Let's be honest.
I was going to say, on the plus side, we're slowly starting to see crowds come back to sport in Britain. Of course, we've just seen the FA Cup. When was it? Not this weekend, but the weekend before. And whilst Wembley Stadium wasn't full, I think it had about 25,000 there. But mind you, 25,000 English football fans, they'd make enough noise for a full stadium, if you know what I mean. So, slowly they're starting to get crowds. So maybe, and with a lot of people getting vaccinated, hopefully the circumstances change.
Oh, look, I hope they get crowds. To me, it's a matter of the fact that these tier 2 nations plus Argentina, are not going to get the opportunity to host teams and therefore make any income. And at the end of the day, they need income, don't they, to improve? So, hopefully, and I say it is hope rather than expectation, that there'll be some revenue sharing with the visiting teams of Canada, and also for Fiji and Tonga when they come to New Zealand. Again, not expecting too much, but let's at least. And again, these are tier 1 games for these countries, which is good. But let's be honest, it's only happening because New Zealand couldn't. New Zealand lost the normal test matches that they were expecting against Italy. Let's not try and make out that this is some altruistic thing. And the same for the home nations as well. They're trying to fill a gap in their schedule that's come about because of COVID. The other one that jumped out at me, which I hadn't, and then obviously we go into the Rugby Championship, where New Zealand will be heading over to Australia to play in Perth. They'll be hosting Australia in Wellington, Argentina at Eden Park, and then Argentina down in Wellington, South Africa in Forsyth Bar, and then South Africa at Eden Park again. So interesting that Wellington's getting 2 test matches, Eden Park getting 4 test matches. 3 plus I've gone blank. 3 plus Mount Smart, then and Forsyth Bar getting 2 as well. So yeah, interesting that that's the spread of those games. And then New Zealand will be playing Australia for a fourth time. And can you guess where that's going to be?
A fourth time. Oh, not in New Zealand.
No.
That would be. I would say it'd be in Sydney at their big ANZ Stadium.
No.
Melbourne Cricket Ground.
No, it's going to be at Khalifa International Stadium.
Khalifa International Stadium. Okay, you've got me there.
In Doha, Qatar.
Wow. Yeah.
Interesting choice of place to go. For those of you on the podcast, Stephen Harris has just made the money sign with his hands. Yep, Australia versus New Zealand at Khalifa International Stadium, Doha, Qatar, on the way over to Europe for their November internationals there. I'm not a country with a fantastic humanitarian record or any kind of rugby heritage that I'm aware of. Very, very minimal rugby heritage as well. Very strange one. That's a very strange choice of location, in my view. I guess they're looking for somewhere that they can play a game that is overseas. And that's on the 23rd of October. Simon Hughes is saying Melbourne. I don't know why, but I'm probably guessing where they're going to play. So look, I mean, it is all about the dollars, I'm not a fan of that location at all. It's not exactly growing the game like a game in the USA or Canada. Not happy. I'm not happy with that choice.
No, either. Paul, it holds 45,000 according to Wikipedia, but no doubt there'll be some big rollers, some high rollers over there who probably won't mind paying that extra bit of cash. Paul.
Yep. Simon says, "Is that the ground that was built for slave labor?" Look, I'm not sure. I paid allegedly. Look, it's not a great not a great. I say not a great humanitarian record. Look, if they get that place a quarter full, I'll be amazed. To be honest, I'm not expecting a big crowd for that game. New Zealand then will play another game outside of the test window against Wales on the 30th of October before playing Italy, Ireland, and France.
Paul, I suspect that game over there is more of a co-op deal as opposed to a crowd turning up. I reckon probably the locals over there have probably paid through the nose just to host the game. Methinks, and any sort of crowd that turns up is a bit of a bonus.
Yeah, I know what I've forgotten the terms called. It's sports washing or whatever. To basically to give your country or give your location some positive coverage to balance the negative coverage it gets through its for other reasons. So look, yeah, that's what it's been done for. I mean, Doha has it's had a Grand Prix there which they paid for. It's also had I think the Asian Games and various other international tournaments. So look, it's part of what Doha do to give its to get publicity, good publicity for the game, or good publicity for the country. Another interesting game that jumped out at me is or two interesting ones actually. Ireland playing Moana Pacifica on the 5th of November. I don't know if that will be the same Moana Pacifica that's going to take part in Super Rugby, or what team, how they're putting that team together. Also on the 27th of November. So this is outside the test window the Barbarians taking on Samoa. So I have no idea what kind of team Samoa will be able to put together for that game.
Could this be a Mana Pacifica trial pool?
Well, after their game against Ireland at the beginning of the window, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Because you got to say that let's be honest. Gallagher Premiership top 14 teams countries are not known for releasing their players for games outside of windows at the best of times. Samoa versus Barbarians on 26th of November. Hopefully, Samoa get to pick as many of their players as possible. But it'll be interesting. That, as far as I can see, they're not playing the weekend before, so maybe they've done a deal with the clubs that they released the players with their clubs on the 20th, but therefore they're allowed to have them on the 27th. We'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Obviously, all the other countries, all the European countries are hosting, and most of the Southern Hemisphere ones are touring. So at the moment, it doesn't look like the USA or Canada have got any games during that window, which is interesting to see. You'd have thought that they would be looking at getting the USA a game or two, a game in there. You'd have thought England currently have got a tier 2 game on the 6th of November that doesn't have a name next to it. So I'd have thought I wouldn't be surprised if that ends up being the USA. But having played them in the July window, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. That's all I've got to say about the. Someone you say, I'm guessing you're looking at Wikipedia for the end of year tour. Yes, I am. That's very true. I am looking at Wikipedia for the end of year tours, and so it does come with a caveat. This isn't. That's where I'm looking at it from. Any sort of comment? Any other thoughts on the international games this year, Stephen, or should we move on to?
Not so much the international game, but it's something that we've sort of we haven't picked up and ran with for a while. Is the Premiership Rugby pool? Only 3 rounds left in Premiership Rugby before they head into the playoffs. I think we can pretty much put a ring around Bristol, who are out in front over Exeter. They're on 76 points, 68 points. With only 3 rounds to go, I'd say Bristol are going to be pretty hard to claw back from their Exeter on 68, Sale on 64, Harlequins 61, and those other crucial positions, that 5th and 6th place, are just being held by Northampton on 50 points. So you could probably arguably say they're safe. And then there's a real battle going on for that 6th placing between Leicester on 44, London Irish 43, Wasps 42, and Bath 42, Newcastle on 39. But they'll probably need a lot of results to go their way, Paul. I haven't looked into the makeup or how those playoffs are basically.
Well, those so those 5th and 6th places after the Heineken Cup, after the European Champions Cup piece, not for the playoffs. The playoffs are amongst the top 4, and with an 11-point gap between Harlequins and Northampton with 3 games to go, it's looking like those top 4 will be in the semi-finals of the Premiership, and it's just a matter of who gets the home draw. Obviously, Bristol will get one, but can either Sale or Harlequins get past Exeter to get a home semi-final? Exeter currently got a 4-point gap, so looking good for the home draw there for Bristol and Exeter at the moment.
And the good thing about it, all those 4 sides that are up there, all starting to hit a little bit of form. Although Harlequins went down in their last game, and that was in round 19. They lost to Leicester 35-29. So Bristol, man, going really, really well this year. But I have a funny feeling once Exeter get some of their England players and they come to that pointy end, you know what? I still have a suspicion that Exeter may come through, despite Bristol having a really good season.
It's going to come down to those two, and it's really. I mean, Sale doing very well to be up in 3rd. Admittedly, they've gone on a big shopping spree and bought half of the South African national team into their squad. That's powered in there. But when you look at those top 4 teams, you just have to look at the points difference. 189 plus for Bristol, 193 for Exeter, 94 for Sale, 133 for Harlequins. The next team is the only other team with a positive points difference, which is Northampton in 5th, 16. To a drop of a sort of 80-ish points lower there, which shows those 4 have been clear of the rest of the pack and fully deserved being in the semi-finals for the Premiership. I don't think you can say any other teams have been unlucky. The only team you might say is lucky is Worcester, who are down in last place on 22 points, 14 points adrift, but no relegation this year, so they're nice and safe.
Interesting times, and definitely something here on New Zealand Sport Radio I'm sure we'll be covering in the next few weeks, Paul.
Yep, no, absolutely. So with that coming up, any other Bunnings NPC, you guys talked about the schedule last week, and one of the points you brought up was that Bay of Plenty now having 4 out of their 5 home games in Tauranga and just the 1 game in Rotorua there for that one. I'm guessing Simon brought that up because being a Rotorua native. The reason for that is pretty simple, is that Bay of Plenty get crowds in Tauranga, and people in Rotorua just don't turn up to the games, and then hence that's why those games are being moved. The main reason that they haven't had more games in Tauranga previously is that there are no floodlights in Tauranga, so they can only play day games. It does mean that Rotorua can be safe in the knowledge that if Bay of Plenty get a top 2 position in the Premiership, then the semi-final will be in Rotorua because of the timing of that game. But unfortunately, people in Rotorua just don't turn up to games, and that's why Bay of Plenty are hosting them in Tauranga.
Yeah, and there's no reason why they, they've got aspirations to make that semi-final or final after last year, after making the semi-finals last year at their first crack. There's no reason why we can't see them do that again, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest question about Bay of Plenty is going to be is their coaches at the end of the day. Clayton McMillan, who was the architect of the last couple of successful seasons that's seen them promoted and also making the Premiership semi-finals, has obviously moved on to the Chiefs now. So they've got a new coaching setup, and it's just a matter of how quickly will they bed in. How will they work with a squad that's used to working with Clayton McMillan, that's used to his systems? How well will they take over that? We'll have to wait and see. That was my only kind of NPC. You guys discussed everything else, folks. We will be getting round. Say myself and Stephen will be getting round to plenty of those games. We will get media passes to Northland, North Harbour, Auckland, Counties Manukau, Waikato, and Bay of Plenty. Or, well, rephrase that, we'll be applying for them. And previously they have given us them, so hopefully we'll get them again.
Hopefully we'll be dealing with the same media guys we did last year.
So we'll be getting around those. So say do follow us, especially on the New Zealand Sports Facebook page, New Zealand Sport Radio Facebook page, where we'll be posting up all our post-match interviews with the players and coaches on there. I do particularly enjoy getting around that competition and talking to the players and coaches. You get much more access than you do at Super Rugby level, which is great to see. Aaron makes a point there that there's more money in Tauranga than Rotorua. That's true, and also it's an expanding population as well. There's more people there in the Tauranga greater metropolis or greater metropolitan area, should I say?
And I suspect, Paul, commercial partners are all based in that Tauranga hub as well. So that's probably plays a little part of us as well. Well, I suppose if we haven't got much to add to the NPC, one level of rugby where we don't need to access passes is Club Rugby.
I was going to hand it over to you for our Club Rugby section. Exactly, Stephen.
There you go. I thought I'd segue. I was just trying to work out a segue into Club Rugby. We've got a bit to cover off this week, but I am going to start in North, and they had round 9 of Taipower Northern Club Rugby on the weekend. I'll quickly go through some of these results. Boy, a real old school result here. Mid Northern 8, Horror 7. So obviously a try each, but a penalty proving the difference. 8-7. We had Old Boys Marist, too good for Wellsford, 36-14 at home. Waitangi Ranger played at first 5, but the home team just not good enough on the day. A big result for Kamo, who's travelling very well, 60 points to 5 over Hikurangi, and one team that's been a real turn up this year, and they're pretty much, this is their second year, Paul, but they're improving, and this is the team from the Bay of Islands. They're the side made up of Moerewa and UK. That's Ngāti Hene, Moerewa UK, beating last year's champions Waipu 25 points to 19. Of course, a couple of the players from last year's winning championship team Waipu have moved on, so a few new faces being seen in that local club side. But the game that I attended was in Kirikiri, and it was Western Sharks, the visitors, 53, Kirikiri 13, and that's after the visitors led by 42 points to 8 at half time, and a very comprehensive performance. They were pretty fired up for this, because in the first round it was Kirikiri that travelled over to Dargaville and beat the Western Sharks by 32 points to 29. So it was definite revenge for the Western Sharks. Now, unfortunately for Kirikiri, they've got several injuries at the moment, and it showed, but that's not taking anything away from what was a very good Western Sharks performance. Dominant up front, they had Corey Tafata Collie, who's the captain. He's one of the Northland players at the minute. Also very good was Thomas Anderson, the number 8, a very good loose forward, very mobile, but a man who impressed me greatly was Tavita Faukafa, who's the Tongan lock. Now, he's out of Rotorua Boys High School, Paul, only about sort of 3 seasons ago. And, boy, he was very good. Looks a really good prospect. Played down in the Taranaki in 2019, and he's certainly a player that Northland are having a really good look at. But, of course, real big difference between NPC level and, of course, club level. And at fullback, a very good game from Fijian fullback Asiri Vatunavuku, who was very elusive in the Cheslin Colby mould. Very small, but footwork and gas to burn, and he cuts all sorts of capers on the paddock. So Western Sharks, coached by Peter Hugo, who does a bit of work for the Northern Rugby Union, doing a great job, and you just can see that they've got systems in place. We'll get to the table shortly. For Kirikiri, well, a well-beaten side, but the skipper, O'Neill Rongo, who you'll see my interview with on New Zealand Sports Radio, check that out, played well. Connor McConaughey also played well. I was very impressed with Liam Colley at second 5, big strapping second 5, played very well, and one of the better players also for Kirikiri was Jonah Ului Naveka, another Fijian fullback as well. There's quite the Fijian community up in Kirikiri, and of course one Fijian that we happened to run into was former Counties Manukau and Highlanders winger Tavita Nabura, who has been out of rugby for the last couple of seasons with head knock issues. Had a good chat to him. Check out that interview on New Zealand Sports Radio. But he does harbour some thoughts about maybe at some stage when he does come right, maybe representing Northland. So he would be a really good pickup. Not so much this year, but hopefully he can recover from these head knocks. Now, one player I was excited about watching, because he's been named in the Northland trials teams for the centenary pool, is Salamoni Tukunea. Now, Salamoni played for St. Kentigans 2 years ago and is quite the talent. I'm actually really surprised that he wasn't picked up by Auckland. We're talking about a kid that's 6'3", got a great offload, got speed, got step, got it all. Whether he's up to NPC level this year, well, I suppose he can throw his head in the ring when the trials are on during the Northern Rugby celebrations, Paul. So, yeah, quite an interesting week. And, of course, that table right there in front of us.
Yeah, look, very tight at the top there. Just 1 point separating Old Boys Marist from Camo.
Yep,
top
Camo,
there.
yep.
Camo, sorry. And then Mid Northern and Western Sharks both at 37, just 2 points back. So very tight amongst those top four at the top. Before a bit of a gap down to the rest. Hikarangi, unfortunately, and perhaps Wellsford struggling a bit this season. But let's hope they keep turning up.
Oh, absolutely. Still a few rounds to go, probably about 5 rounds before we get into the playoffs. So still plenty at stake. The good thing for the Western Sharks, they've actually beaten both Old Boys Marist and Mid Northern. They beat Mid Northern comprehensively. This is a Mid Northern team that's stacked with several Northern players, although they are an extremely young side. A few people, I remember we had Corey Anderson last year on New Zealand Sports Radio in a preview lead up to the final, and he did say they were a young side, but if that side can stick together over the next few seasons, they will be one to beat, as will Western Sharks. Camo going along nicely, doing the business, and I look through the table, looks like they've just had the one loss, Paul. So that's it for Taipower Northland Club Rugby as we move on to the North Harbour competition, and once again some more interesting results. I remember going along to the very first game of the season and thinking that Takapuna were just going to be absolutely unbelievable, but unbelievably in round 8 they travelled to Massey out here in West Auckland and went down 29-24, and that was their second loss in a row, and a real tight one. Northcote and North Shore. It was Northcote getting the job done, 20 points to 19. Silverdale travelled up to Warkworth, too strong for Mahourangi, 33 points to 7. Good to see a nice open game between Kumeu and Glenfield. Glenfield been struggling this year, boy. They'll be happy to have scored 24 points, but on the other side of the ledger, probably be looking a little bit at their defence, conceding 52 points to Kumeu. And the ever-improving North Harbour Marist 21-17 over East Coast Bays. So that's the results in North Harbour Club Rugby. We'll have a quick look at the table there. North Shore, just the one loss this season on 31 points. So that was their first loss on the weekend. The team that they lost to Northcote on 28 points. Takapuna, they're still there or thereabouts, as their coaches told me. The championship is not won in May. It's won a little bit later in the season. So they're sitting on 27, and Massey after that, good win on 22 points. North Harbour Marist on 21 and Silverdale on 21. But the likes of Kumeu and East Coast Bays, not quite out of it, but you could probably say Mahourangi and Glenfield are probably just playing for pride for the rest of the season, Paul.
Yeah, Mahourangi and Glenfield clearly struggling this year. But when you look at, if you think that you've got Massey there in 4th place on 22 points, and then you've got only 3 points back, you've got East Coast Bays, and that covers 5 teams there. So there's only a win separates them, and bonus points clearly going to be a big driver there amongst those teams. The Massey only really where they are now because of they've got 4 wins and a draw, whereas everyone else has got 4 wins and losses kind of thing. But yeah, so bonus points are going to be key in that battle for at least the last semi-final place.
Yeah, it's coming together nicely. So we'll watch this competition with interest, as we will with our next competition, which happens to be the Alan McAvoy Trophy here in Auckland, and our results from round 7 saw Suburbs 35 winners over Manukau Rovers there. So I know Boa would have been on the sideline on the weekend, but Suburbs very young side, so they'd be happy with that win. Somewhat of a bit of an upset. Pakuranga travelled out to Waitemata Park and got the win over Waitemata at home. Waitemata, of course, missing Adrian Choate, who's on Blues duty at the minute. But listen, the upset of the, well, not the upset of the competition, because University are a very good side, knocking over Grammar Tech and handing them their first loss of the season, but also a very good reward too for Tyrone Elkington McDonald, passing 100 points for the season. That's pretty impressive after 7 games, you've got to say, Paul. So he's certainly got his heat-seeking radar on his boots, finding the middle of the pace. The rest of the results: Papatoetoe 50-24 over Waitakere City. Ponsonby too strong for Marist, 45-22 over Marist, and College Rifles 34-24 over Eden. So some interesting results there, but an especially good result for University as we look at the table in the Alan McAvoy Trophy. Of course, remembering it's the top 8 that you need to make, Paul, and I'll get you to take us through where those standings are at the minute.
Yep, so College Rifles at the top there, just 1 point ahead of Ponsonby, or Ponies, but the Ponies have played one more game, so we do have buys in this one. Trying to keep pace. University there on 26, just 1 point ahead of Grammar Tech, who, whilst that was their first loss of the season, they do have a game in hand over the 2 ahead of them. They've had one of their buys already. Eden, again, just trying to keep in touch on 23. Perhaps they're going to need some good results to keep in touch with that top 4. Oh, the top 8 you need to make, isn't it? That's right. So they're good at the moment. Papatoetoe on 20. Pakuranga on 19. So it's all pretty tight there. A bit of a gap down to Marist on 15. And now we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, and they're currently holding 8th place. So it looks, and then they've played one less game than Pakuranga, and Waitemata there, 2 points behind them. So look, Marist and Waitemata are clearly going to get going head to head for one of those final places. Pakuranga not pulling away yet, but they've a bird in the hand is worth 2 in the bush, as they say. So they've got the points in hand, even if they've played one more game.
Yeah, Paul. Looking at it, you suspect your overall winner, they could probably come from one of those top 4 teams. I think all capable of beating each other on the day. Listen, speaking of Auckland Rugby, would be remiss of me not to mention the women's results for the weekend, round 7 of the Auckland Women's Premier Competition. Just saw the 2 results with Ponsonby 24-10 winners over Ardmore Marist. A real improvement from Ardmore Marist. If we recall last year, they were getting some more mighty thumpings last year, and somewhat of an upset here. Marist 31 over Manurewa, last year's beaten finalist, 31-27. Where does that leave us on the table? Well, after 2 rounds, we've still got Manurewa sitting at the top of the table. So it looks like most of the teams have had at least a loss in the women's division. And we just go south a little bit, Paul, and we head down to the counties Manukau competition. And the results from round 8, that's the McNamara Cup from the weekend, saw Ardmore Marist 31 in a tight one over Waiku 24. Another tight one here, Paul. Not sure what's going on. Pukekohe 9, Bombay 8. There you go. And then on the opposite side of the scale, in another close game, Karaka 91, Papakura 12. Not too sure what happened there. Unfortunately, we had looks like a default, so Manurewa were to play Onefero, but looks like one of those teams defaulted. I'm thinking it's probably Onefero. And in our final result, another bigger result again, Patamahoe 91, Weymouth 3. As we have a quick look at the table, and Karaka on 34 points. I think they were at the top of the table last time we spoke, Paul. Ardmore Marist 34, so those 2 going neck and neck. Manurewa on 31 and Patamahoe on 28, Pukekohe on 23, Waiuku on 21, Bombay 17, and you'd have to say Papakura, Onefero and Weymouth all out of the running in the Counties Manukau Club Rugby competition. And I suppose you've probably got some results closer to where you are, Paul.
I was going to say again, looking at that table, again, you're looking at the top four there. Really, the winner's going to come from those four, isn't it? At the end of the day, it's hard. They looks like they again could beat each other on any given Sunday, whereas I think they've got the edge over the ones beneath them. No, I don't have the Thames Valley scores this week for you. I'm afraid. Sorry. I want to gloss over the fact that Waihi lost both the Bs and the As to Thames, so I'll just keep quiet about that and just kind of move on and just ask you: do you know what's happening up with Nico Jones at the moment?
Wow, no, I'm not 100% sure. Well, he has been playing for Waitemata as far as I know. If you could probably kill a little bit of time, I can just check to see if he was actually playing for Waitemata on the weekend. Of course, I was out of Auckland on the weekend, but I am back in Auckland at the minute, and I'll be heading out to watch a bit of Goodyear Auckland Club Rugby on the weekend as I pull up.
So whilst you're doing that, you'll be catching some Auckland Club Rugby the weekend. Myself, I will be down again at Waihi Club Rugby this weekend because we again have got another double header of games. It's also our sponsors' day or our club day this weekend. So if you happen to be in the Coromandel or Bay of Plenty sort of Waihi area, do come on down. We're going to have a bit of it's all going to be kicking off at Waihi Rugby Club on Saturday. It'll be a 12:30 kickoff for the Bees and a 2:00 kickoff for the Premiers. So do come down and watch those games. If you obviously, I'll be there with my bucket hat on. So do come over and have a beer with me post games and look on the quiet. There's normally food left over from the team's feed that everyone else can get a chow on as well. So come, you might be able to get a free feed out of it as well. So head on down to Waihi if you're in the area.
Just to answer Aaron's question, Nico Jones started in the number 8 jersey on the weekend for Waitemata, and in fact, from what I've seen, he's been playing some very good rugby this year. But I suppose they'd be disappointed that they went down to the visitors on the weekend. But our good friend of the show, Dwayne Politavail, played halfback for Pakuranga on the weekend, and I'd say he'd have a bit of a smile on his face. Maybe at some stage we've got to get Dwayne back on just to have a bit of a chat about Goodyear Tyre Auckland Club Rugby. Yeah,
that would be fantastic. And as Aaron said, this coming weekend he'll be at Eden Park because Aidan, his nephew, will be playing. Will be actually playing some I'm not sure it's halftime or pre-game games on the pitch. So I'm sure the West Stand will be packed with family and friends to see Aidan on his first game there. The West Stand is where Aidan normally sits and watches Blues games. Cracking young kid, and I hope he has fun and his team have fun out there on the hallowed turf of Eden Park. You walked on the grass at Eden Park a few times?
Yes, I have. I need to introduce somebody though, Paul.
Oh, you've never played? Oh, I just wanted to see if you'd ever got to run out and play.
No, on the number, when they used to have games on the number 2. Yep, number 2, yes, but no, never had the luxury of running out on the hollowed turf of Eden Park.
Oh dear me. I've again. A few club days I've got to walk on there, and I remember talking to Charlie Fulmaina on there on a club day. So I'm picking up my bag of potatoes that were from the sponsors as well. So been on the grass a few times, but never playing. So Aidan might be the first person sort of amongst sort of friends and family that I know that kind of have actually played on Auckland. On Eden Park's number 1 ground. We'll have to do an interview with him about his experience on there afterwards. Get Ashwin to to interview him. Thank you very much, Stephen. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you everyone who's joined us in the live chat. Don't forget you can become a supporter of New Zealand Sports Radio over at patreon.com/NZ Sport Radio. I'll be back tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. with the morning sports briefing. Tomorrow evening we will have the standoff show covering all the NRL news, and the Knicks newsletter covering all the Phoenix news. Obviously, they had a big crowd down in Wellington last weekend, 20-odd thousand there for their first home game in a long time, which was great to see. Also, we'll be back on Thursday with our Super Rugby preview show. We obviously with 5 more games in the Trans-Tasman, you can hear whether we think any of those games will end up with an Australian win, or we have to wait till round 4. Join us on Thursday to find out.